Dear chess friends, welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to a spectacular and special game that has been played by the latest version of Stockfish, the powerful Stockfish 16. Today we see the fish battling it out against another top engine Rofchade with the black pieces in the Pirc defense against the so-called 150 attack. And the 150 attack is really one of my favorite attacks that I love to play with the white pieces, because in the beginning you have many great tactical possibilities, you have many great attacking chances, and I've created also a separate playlist how to beat the Pirc defense with the white pieces using the 150 attack, so you can check it out. Here's the link of the playlist. But I was really curious, how is Stockfish going to handle my favorite attack, the 150 attack in the Pirc defense? And the most important question is, what kind of a defensive strategy Stockfish will show us here? Will it attack? Will it defend? Will it rely simply maybe on the dark square bishop? So many questions I had here when I analyzed the game. So in my opinion, very remarkable game. Put your seatbelts on. This is really a spectacular game, again played by Stockfish 16. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The fish opened, Rofchade opened with the move e4. The fish responded with the move d6, the Pirc defense. We have d4, normal stuff. Knight to f6, knight to c3, and now after move g6, we're now in the standard line of the Pirc defense. We're trying, of course, to play bishop to g7, and of course to develop the dark square bishop. Bishop to e3, normal development, and now comes queen to d2. This is now the so-called 150 attack with the preparation to play f3, g4, h4, h5, g5, so whatever possible. And the main concept is, of course, to trade off the dark square bishops, playing bishop to h6, trading off it for the dark square bishop of blacks here on g7, and then of course when the h file opens, maybe in some lines create a queen and bishop battery when of course the bishop is off the board on g7, and then if you castle too early or something, then you could get even checkmated in some tactical lines of the 150 attack. So that's the plan, that's the concept, that's the strategy for white. So Stockfish immediately castled here. Is not scared about this attack by white to play the move bishop to h6 immediately. Now we have queenside castling here by Rofchade. So also a standard move. Both kings are now on opposite sides, so who is faster on the attack will probably win the game. So it becomes now really beautiful opposite side attack chess game. So after queenside castling, we have now c6 by the fish, preparing also his attack here on the queen side with the move b5, b4, and similar stuff. We have f3. Rofchade is still preparing g4, h4. We have now b5 and now g4 here by Rofchade. We have queen to a5 with the threat, of course, to play the move b4, hitting the knight that's protecting the a2 pawn and then grabbing. So that's why here Rofchade played, I think, a good move, king to b1, didn't play a3 or something, because then when you play a3, you can stop a little bit this progress with the move b4, but then you weaken the structure in front of the king. So moving the king to b1 is also a standard idea with the white pieces in these types of structures. After move king to b1, Stockfish plays now b4 anyway. Simply deflects now the king, the knight from the defense of the king. Notice now when the knight is now on e2 that this knight is a little bit standing in the way here. Also takes away the bishop's activity. The bishop is not so good. It's blocked out now simply by its own piece, and also it has taken now also the natural square for this other knight. So this move b4 at least stopped for white a little bit the progressive plans on the king side. Good move here by Stockfish, because when you maybe play this opposite side attack games, you have to always play attacking moves. You have to also find counterattacks, but you have to also slow down your opponent's pace of the attack. So I think the move b4 was the first really important move now in the continuation of the game. After knight to e2, we have now c5 by the fish. What should white do? If you play here d takes c5, then after d takes c5, you could maybe try this kind of stuff with e5, but this is not good. Look at this. With bishop to e6, when this bishop is coming into the game, both bishops would then target the king side, so I think you'll not have fun playing this game. Then knight to d5, knight to c3 in some lines is a possibility maybe to open the b file. So white has to be also careful. You cannot just rush. You cannot just place your pawns wherever you like. You have to also have a strategic plan, really a nice tactical preparation in order to understand really this concepts of the 150 attack. So as I said, many of us would even start to push the pawn on e5, but look at this, you could get destroyed also on the queen side very early in the game. So after move c5 here, Rofchade simply continued with the normal plan, bishop to h6, trading off the dark square bishops, and launched the attack, h4, h5, opening up the h file as I mentioned in the beginning, and maybe in some lines even delivered checkmate. After bishop to h6, we have c4, we have bishop to g7, king to g7, and now h4. Here I was really curious, how is Stockfish going to defend this? Look at this. I've reached many times, maybe not the same, but a similar position with the white pieces, and I was always satisfied when I had this pawn advanced. The h5 is coming, so really, I was curious how is Stockfish going to defend this really progressive plans by white. Stockfish continues with a beautiful c3 here. As I said, you have to be active, you have to be aggressive. That's now the way to go. Here Stockfish, okay, maybe will sacrifice a pawn or something, but if the b file opens after b takes c3, then the rook could come in a spectacular way into the game. So sometimes when we play this opposite side attack games, when both kings are on opposite side, it's also a very nice idea to simply sacrifice a pawn just in order to open the files against your opponent's king. So what should now white do? Let's see possibilities. I've analyzed at home this line. If, for instance, white accepts the challenge and plays now b takes c3, then black should not recapture here. Black should simply continue the development. It gives us now extra time. Notice still that these pieces are a little bit cramped here. They're a little bit paralyzed. So now with the move knight to c6, many things can go wrong after something like c takes b4. Look at this, knight to b4. Then you can play c3. We retreat. Now you maybe try to launch your attack further. But now look at this. Bishop to h6 is also coming into the game. H takes g6. Now this other rook is coming into the game. Look at this. Because of this tiny little tempi that white lost in the beginning, also by taking out the pawn, suddenly black is now on the attacking side, not white. Really wild stuff. For instance, you try king to a1, we play now this one, you can deliver a check, but now we step back, and what should you do? If you play here g5, then look at this, queen to b5, and the game is over here for white. Really crazy position. You can also try c4, but then leaving again many spaces here. For instance, in the beginning, after move b takes c3 and knight to c6, what you could play, of course, is also the move c4. Look, you can maybe try to lock the position. You're saying, I'll not allow you here to maybe open the b file, but now comes also a spectacular line. As I said, this wasn't played in the game, but I was really curious about this potential sidelines, because I think this is a game that's really worth to study. So that I wanted to show you many sidelines, although probably many of you don't like that, but that's simple as that, as how I work here on my YouTube channel. I know sometimes we get stretched simply too much by the deviations of the game, but I think it's very important to notice now what happens if, for instance, white locks out now the position with move c4. Look at this, you have even this stunner, bishop to g4. Look how the position can explode all over the board. Look at this. After f takes g4, knight to e4. You have to step back. Now knight to c3 comes in the way. And now look at this. Again, the b file will be open, and I think in the next couple of moves, white is going to be destroyed. Really wild stuff. So see, c3 is actually a huge tactical threat by black against white's attack. So here after move c3, that's why queen to e3 played by Rofchade. So you see, at least Stockfish is already there. Stockfish has at least created some kind of an attack here. So white still has to play, I don't know, h5, h takes g6, maybe queen to h6. So at least 2-3 tempi in order to make some kind of a threat. So Stockfish continues with normal development. Knight to c6, we have h5. Bishop to a6, we have h takes g6, f takes g6, and now queen to h6. Here king to f7 was played by Stockfish. Must move. The only defensive move, if you play, of course, something like, I don't know, king to g8 here, then e5 in some lines, or g5 is coming, so it could be then devastating. If ever king to g8, g5, knight to h5, we can, I think, even sacrifice the rook for the exchange, then to play also knight to f4, knight to e6, so devastating position. So king to f7, the only defensive move, controls also the e6 square, here the potential outposted knight that could come on f4 and then afterwards on e6. Really must move here by the fish, as I said. So here g5 was played by Rofchade. Stockfish retreats now to d7. Rofchade takes out now the pawn, and again it seemed to me white is perfectly fine. This is solid play by white, because white is already on the attacking side. King to e8, and now d5 was played by Rofchade, liberating now also the square for the knight, hoping maybe to get the knight somewhere on e6 or maybe here on c6. If Rofchade would have played the move queen takes g6, this wasn't played in the game, but again I was really curious what would have happened after queen takes g6. Then after actually king to d8, you have to play even queen to e6 here in order to control the bishop on c4 here. Very nasty position. Now with knight to b6, you may be getting this knight finally into the game. Now we play rook to b1. After a couple of trades of bishops, we don't even react. We play now the move b3 here. So Again, this is defendable. The engine gives here equal chances now for both sides, but this would be actually then the progressive plan here for black. So black has to keep the attack in order to make something. If black plays a tiny little, I don't know, slow move or something, then black is getting destroyed. Probably white will get the rook on the 7th rank, and many pieces would be then included into the attack. Maybe knight to f5 or similar stuff. But b3, look at this. Then the game continues like queen to b3. Now we pick up the bishop finally, and now there are threats. Knight to c4, knight to a4. The b file could be again open, but at least you see even in this line, Stockfish would I think find also some great attacking chances. So that's why for king to e8 here, Rofchade didn't take out now the pawn immediately. Played first of all the move d5. Stockfish played now bishop to c4, a beautiful counterattack. If you play here b3, this is not working, of course. Queen to a3 is winning the game. You can just deliver a couple of checks, but nothing spectacular. After this one, b takes c3, the game is over here for white. So that's why knight to c1 had to be played, and now this whole idea to get maybe the knight here somewhere on e6 is simply not working anymore here for white. After knight to c1, knight to e5, Stockfish attacks now also the pawn on f3. We have bishop to c4, knight takes c4, queen to g6. Now finally Rofchade grabs the pawn on g6, Stockfish steps back, and now comes the critical moment of the game. As I said in the beginning, when Stockfish played the move b4 and when the knight retreated to e2, this knight was a little bit paralyzed by this other knight, and also we saw the bishop had a tough time on on f1 to get somehow back into the game. So here from king to d1, actually the correct way here for white to proceed would have been the move queen to g7. Then after something like c takes b2, the knight can come here. You have to step back with the queen, and now maybe the knight can finally come on its square that here Stockfish tried to play, of course. Pardon me, Rofchade tried to play the beautiful c6 square. Now with black, which should probably try something like rook to e8 in order to prevent also the fork here against this rook and against the king. Then maybe something like f4 could be played. But now again, knight to c5, rook to h3, maybe controlling the 3rd rank and similar stuff. But I think in this line, white could have at least some kind of a chance by pushing the pawns here on the f and g file. But this wasn't played in the game. Instead of this move queen to g7, here Rofchade tried normal development. But in human chess, I think normal development is a common principle. But in AI chess, sometimes playing the normal principled move is simply a huge mistake, like Rofchade did here. After knight to e2, Stockfish plays now the beautiful knight takes a3, knight to a3. If you play b takes a3, then of course queen to a3, and again you get checkmated on b2. After knight to a3, king to a1 was played. Stockfish plays now c takes b2, king takes b2, queen to c5, attacks now this pawn. Here e5 had to be played by Rofchade in order to protect the pawn on c2. Stockfish simply takes out now the pawn on e5, hits also the queen drops back to e4, and now rook to f4. This is the way to go. Beautiful deflection idea here by the fish, because if you take of course here with the queen, then you get this one. Queen to c2 is a beautiful checkmate. If you take of course with the knight here, then we have this one, queen to c3, immediately here checkmate by the beautiful queen's activity, because the knight is then deflected from the defense of this amazing square. After rook to f4, here Rofchade tried queen to h7. Stockfish continues now with the attack against the pawn on c2. If you protect it with the rook, then you get the fork here on c4. So this is not working. So that's why for rook to c8, king to a1 was played. Rook takes f3, c4, queen takes c4, queen to h4, knight to c2 here. Twice we had a repetition of the position, but now for king to b1, queen takes h4 here by Stockfish. But now the position is splashed. The attack by white is not so dangerous anymore, and of course this should be now completely winning endgame here for black. Here in the continuation, king to d7, Stockfish finally improved the position of the king. The king was a little bit all over the place, but now it's perfectly fine. Cannot be attacked by any pieces of whites. We have rook to g1, rook to e3, rook to h1, and now Stockfish includes of course this other piece into the game. You cannot play of course rook to g3. There are some threats of knight to knight to d2, so that's why here for rook to g3 was played anyway, but now a5. If you play rook to g2 here, then also this kind of stuff is working, simply attacking the rook. This rook will come into the game, so again, a devastating position. After rook to g3, here Stockfish simply continued with a5. We have rook to ad1, knight to a3 check, king to a1, a4. Simply Stockfish makes further progress. We have rook to g4, rook to e5. You cannot pick up the pawn on b4 because again you get to fork on c2, so that's why here Rofchade tried rook to g3, knight takes g5. So you see many pawns are now taken, so after move rook takes a3, here actually Rofchade even resigns. So this was really crazy, this was really epic. Incredible defensive skills here by the fish against the 150 attack. Really wild stuff how Stockfish can somehow get out of this mess. Incredible performance. But I think if you're a Pirc defense player, there's something for you for sure. Many tactical motifs. We have seen many strategic concepts by pushing the pawn on b4 immediately, creating this paralyzed position by the knight. So many great plans we have seen by the fish, but in my opinion, really one of the best chess games that I've seen by Stockfish playing with the black pieces. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas in the Pirc defense for sure. If you want to see, as I said, this 150 attack series here on my YouTube chess channel, here's the link of the playlist. And if you want to see more AI chess games, here's also the link of the playlist. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.